Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you'll meet the owner and founder of an amazing law firm, and she specializes in wills, trusts, and living wills. She's trying to bring humanity to the legal practice. You'll hear her journey next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I love how life works. We all have a plan, and then God throws an audible at us. And that describes my next guest. Lorie Burch is in the studio. She's with Burch Law. And you were kind of doing your thing, and then your stepdad had a setback.
Yeah, I was in D.C. That's where I went off to law school with big aspirations there. But after graduating law school, really missed being home and being with my family, and had this crazy idea, because we're a family of entrepreneurs, that I would start my own law practice. And I had some experience in doing wills and trusts and powers of attorney, and I did really enjoy that because there is such a human element to it. And I thought, what if I came back to Dallas, started my own law practice, and see what I can do there? And in fact, one day I was talking to my stepdad, Lee, who I was very close to, and he was talking about finding apartments for me. And the next day I get a frantic call from my mom, and he had an accident, and he was gone just like that. So within 3 weeks, I had moved back home. I was 27 years old, didn't have a place to live, was going to start my own law practice. I had to get licensed here because I was licensed out there, but had to get licensed here, and just started from that. But even though I did not choose the area of wills, trusts, and probate because of a loss of such a close loved one, it really set an interesting tone for me in every client that I have met. We're going on 20 years now, and that we work with, we really do try to think through what are they experiencing, what do they need, what sort of patience and guidance do they need, regardless of legal services. What can we do to help navigate this very difficult time for them, and maybe bring some peace and comfort to them.
And Lorie, they don't teach this in law school, do they?
Being kind and compassionate, no, shockingly enough, they do not.
So where does that come from? Is that just you?
I think so. I mean, we all like to disparage lawyers because it's just so fun and we're easy targets. But the whole reason I went to law school, and a lot of lawyers do, is to truly help people. I was telling you that we look at it where people don't have legal problems, they have personal problems. Mm-hmm. And when we are put in really an empowering position to be able to navigate things that people without law license cannot, then you're really able to help find solutions. And so, yes, I think no matter what career I would have had, it would have ended up doing something where I feel like people are leaving me better than I found them.
That's powerful. We're going to pull up her website. Lorie, it seems like there's a stigma around death. Families don't like to talk about it. They don't like to plan for it. So are you often seeing families at a point where there's a crisis?
It's really twofold. I'd say the vast majority are people who are doing pre-planning, which we love because we know when people are getting to do it and they're doing it the right way, meaning going to a qualified law firm, that they're going to get something that is ultimately going to help them, help their families. So we deal mostly with clients with young kids, and so most of the time we're doing the pre-planning. And then the other side of it is when something has happened, and when we have to go through probate, or someone's been hospitalized, has a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's, or has ultimately passed away. And majority of the time, over 70%, I believe, is the statistic, people don't have any sort of plan, or they have something from the internet, which don't do that. It just
Right.
It just causes a lot of heartache and a lot of mess. And anything you think you're accomplishing, whether it's saving money, speeding things up, or making things easier, it doesn't do any of that. So we do see people from that side of things, but mostly, happily enough, are people who are knowing that they need to do some adulting and they're getting it done.
Right. I think the most loving thing anybody can do for their family is have a plan, because you've probably seen families ripped apart when the affairs were not in order, and now suddenly there's lawsuits.
Yeah, we've had people fight over Cadillacs and remains, and there's just nothing that people won't bicker about. And we try to be very sensitive, because when you've experienced the loss of somebody, that is not when people are at their best or most rational. And so trying to have things put in place ahead of time is such an incredible service to your loved ones, but really for yourselves. This is often called legacy planning, which sometimes I steer clear of, but I have come to embrace it, because the definition of legacy is sure, it's leaving behind whatever money, assets, material possessions you've acquired. But the other definition of legacy is the long-lasting impact of someone's life. And when you finally do check out, because it's going to happen, what your family goes through, what the experience is, and all of that is going to be part of your final chapter, and it becomes your story, it becomes your legacy. So much better to make sure that you've got a plan so that they can focus on healing and maybe even celebrating your life rather than expenses and court battles.
Amen. She is a prolific social media person. She puts up all these wonderful videos with tips. I urge you to follow her on all her platforms. I found one that I really liked. Let's go ahead and roll that.
Hi, Lorie Burch here, your go-to wills and trust attorney. We're often asked, understandably, how much does it cost to get a will? But the real question should be, how much does it cost not to have a will? The cost of not having a will boils down to three main problems: more money, more time, and no choices. More money, because without a will, your estate is likely to have to go through what's called a determination of heirship, where a court has to appoint an attorney ad litem to research your heirs, report back to the court, and get all your family to agree on who would be the executor. Now, I don't expect that you understand what all that means, but does it sound cheap? No, this could easily cost $5,000 to $10,000 or more. The cost of not having a will also means more time. With a will, you typically only need about 3 months or so to wrap things up, even less time with a living trust. Without a will, this can take several months, if not years, even with simple estates that may just be a house and some bank accounts. And not only is the court going to involve all your family, but you actually have to get at least 2 friends to testify that they knew you, knew your family history, your marital history, your kids, your assets, and your debts. Not the most convenient or quickest way, just to make sure your money and your property go to the right people. Finally, the biggest cost of not having a will is no choices. You know my saying, if you don't have a will, the state of Texas has one for you. The court is going to determine everything: how your assets are distributed, who's going to raise your kids, how money will be used for them if they're underage. And the only people they can choose from are your relatives, who may not be your first choice, and it could mean that they may end up fighting over who will be in control. Now, we understand what it's like to be on a budget, but when it comes to who will get your home and your money, who will be guardians of your kids, and who will ensure your legacy, you can't afford not to have a will. This is one of the greatest investments of your life. Let us help you understand the value with a complimentary consultation. And remember, if you don't have a will, the state of Texas has one for you.
Lorie, you're a great communicator. I love your videos.
It comes from my mom. She's a professional speaker, and so is my sister. So it's kind of in our blood.
You're a natural. And I know you're proud of your team. We're going to pull up your dream team. Let's go ahead and scroll down her Meet the Team page. Why don't you talk about the kinds of people you attract?
Well, obviously very young ones, if you look at their faces. But no, it's been wonderful. So when I started this practice, and the majority of those 20 years has been just me. And when I started a program a few years ago about really being able to help more people, but also create more personal freedom for myself to pursue other things, then I knew I had to grow. And so we have a very intricate screening process that we go through, and it's worked sometimes and it hasn't worked other times. But those folks that you see are incredible human beings. When we talk about, it used to just be me that was encountering people and wanting to make sure that we put ourselves in their shoes and that they were going to be treated with kindness, respect, and dignity.
Yes.
Every one of those people are committed to that, and that's why they work at Burch Law.
So you screen them for compassion.
Yeah, absolutely.
How can you tell in a job interview?
Well, we look at their background. We do a lot of different testing, but it's really more just in the conversations that we have with them as far as what's motivating them. And the majority of people, with the exception of the lawyers, well, not even all the lawyers, don't have any legal experience before they've come.
Wow.
And it's not something I intentionally went out to do, but I've discovered that, you remember I told you I started my practice at 27 years old. I really didn't have a lot of experience or knew what I was doing, but I've been able to attract people that, hey, I'm going to give you a chance and we are going to be a team and I'm going to put value and trust in you if you return it back. And like I've said, it hasn't always taken with everybody, but the ones that you see there are just incredibly kind, committed individuals that have potential upon potential upon potential. And so you just get a feeling, you have those conversations, and then when you put them to work, you kind of test it out.
I love it. I know why you're so successful. In the minute or so we have left, why don't you look into that camera on the left and talk to the viewer who has been putting off doing any kind of estate planning.
Yeah, which this is a majority of people that we talk to, and we get it. It's not fun. I have to tell the team we're not party planners. Nobody wants to be calling us. But the fact of the matter is it is going to happen. And even if you have circumstances that change or you move all of that, in the meantime, if something happens, then your family is left with nothing. No decisions, so much expense, time delays, not being sure of what to do. And so the best thing you can do is not only get this done, stop procrastinating, put it in place now, have that peace of mind, get it done the right way, which means not going online or now in the age of AI. That's not the best way to do it, or even looking for the most reduced legal services or cut rate attorneys. Our website has a great checklist of what to look for. And secondly, you want to keep it updated. And there are different changes that happen, but let's get it in place first. You are doing a service to your family and you are doing a service to yourself, because it's not really a matter of if, but of when. Because remember, if you don't have a will, the state of Texas has one for you.
Wow, Lorie, you're amazing. We're going to end with her website, which is burch-law.com. The great Lorie Burch. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely, Jeff. Anytime.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.